caregiving related to are unequally distributed due to gender norms, forcing many girls and women to abandon their studies. These inequalities exacerbate gender inequality and limit equal access to opportunities in decision-making spaces. Prioritizing the education of girls and women is the answer to mitigating and adapting to climate crisis, as it equips them with the knowledge and skills to respond to disasters sustainably while they become the climate leaders we urgently need, challenging gender stereotypes and building resilience in communities and countries around the world, as it has been proven by many acclaimed universities that the representation of girls and women in national parliaments leads to countries to adopt more ambitious and rigorous climate change policies. As we reflect on the importance of education for both gender and climate justice, let us not forget too about the incredible girls and women who inspire us every day, because their achievements are a testament to the power of education and the potential it can unlock on each one of us. Mexican girls like Adara Perez, Xochitl Cruz, Yvette Ortiz, Michelle Arellano, Luna Diaz, and Aleida Ruiz, among with countless others around the world, are breaking barriers and redefining what is possible, no matter the background we might come from, because they are the embodiment of the change we seek, and they remind us that all girls and women, no matter how disadvantaged, should have the opportunity to attend school without the interruption of early marriage, forced responsibilities, and discrimination. These girls and women are living proof that education is the key to unleashing the potential they hold, that we hold, and not only for our own benefit, but also for the betterment of society as a whole. Let us not forget that education is our pathway to achieving gender and climate justice. Let us not forget that it is our tool for empowerment, our weapon against inequality, and our shield against the climate crisis. It is our responsibility and it is our hope, and together with it, we can build a more just, sustainable, and equal world for all of us. As we move forward, let us take action in alignment also with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and let us work collectively to ensure that education is not just a pathway, but a reality for all, regardless of gender. Let us march together towards a future where justice and sustainable reign supreme. Thank you. I will also share some of my links.
Thank you. That was really Thank you so much for the session, Marifer.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me. As I was
Do you guys
saying,
have any questions?
I have a question, if you guys don't mind. Okay, so what do you think that we can do in the comfort like of our own homes, or because some of us don't really have access to like traditional activism, like hands-on. What do you think that we can do in our homes to help fight this inequality in schools and in education?
okay, thank you for your question, Mia. I will go back to what my mother always said. Activism actually begins at home. I don't know if you have any siblings, but you can always help them out. For example, I have a little sister, and I always encourage her to keep on with her studies outside of school, whether it's learning a new language or getting better on math or anything like that. You can start by that. You don't necessarily have to go to the kind of like bigger league or anything like that. You can start from there, and that is of equal value as doing it outside of home.
Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you to you. So I will send you some of my social media if you want to later on connect or something. I'm sorry for interrupting you. What were you saying, Sylvia?
Oh, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so what do you think we can do to break language barrier? Because um, a lot of girls don't really speak a language that can give them voices. Or, for example, there's plenty of girls in my country, they don't speak English, they don't speak French or Spanish. So, if we want to get everybody involved, how can we break this language barrier?
Okay, such a great question, truly. I believe that us who have the privilege another to know another language, I'm sorry, such as English or French or Spanish, we should act as the kind of like medium for us to translate all this information so that we can give it to the other girls on their native tongue and on their native language. And as I was previously saying too, keep encouraging, let us be the teachers for them. For example, that I know English, let me act as a teacher of English for a girl who just speaks Spanish and is missing out on so many important information regarding of breaking the language barrier and fighting for gender justice and climate justice. So I will think those are some of like kind of the steps that I will be taking in order to fight this, which is definitely a barrier.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your answer. If you guys don't have any more questions for Marifer Treviño, we are going to go with our next speaker, Jamie Mittleman. Thank you so much, Marifer.
Thank you to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
How's it going?
Jamie is our last speaker. We saved the last for the best, everyone. So,
I
hi,
don't know
Jamie.
about that. That's a really high bar to follow. I've been loving all of the incredible stuff happening today. I'm Jamie Mittleman. I am the founder of Flame Bears. So just to start, we're going to play a little game. So we're going to ask you a couple questions and would love for people to drop their answers into the chat. So historically, what percentage of sports media has gone to women athletes? No guesses are silly guesses. So would love people to don't look at that, would drop their answers into the chat. Okay. Well, getting some answers, 5%, 8%, 10%. Answers 4%. So that means that 96% of sports media coverage has historically gone to individuals who identify as men's. 30%. That would be tennis, amazing. Yes. So it definitely does vary by sport. This is across sports. Great guesses. Next question. When was the first Paralympics to be shown on primetime television? So drop your guesses into the chat. So for those who don't know what the Paralympics are, they are essentially the equivalent of the Olympics for people with physical disabilities. 1986, good guess. 2008, good guesses. 2003, okay, this is interesting. 1990, people are so hopeful. It was actually the last Paralympics, 2021, which is crazy. We think that we have made so much progress when it comes to disability. Unfortunately, not as much as we'd like to think. This was the first Paralympic Games ever shown on primetime television. Last question, in terms of the money. So a new CNN analysis just came out that the women's soccer players from the past World Cup, so literally this past summer, were making X number of cents for every $1 that their male counterparts made the summer before, 20 cents. Ooh, 43. You're all very good. You're very 43, okay. The real answer is 25 cents. So that means for every dollar that the men had won in Qatar, their counterparts in New Zealand and Australia were making 25 cents. In the upper right-hand corner, you can actually see a picture of the reggae girls who are currently on protest, their Jamaica's team, because they were never actually completely paid for their work in the World Cup at all. So a ton of work that still needs to be done in the women's sports space. And this is where we come in. So Flame Bearers is the first storytelling platform that elevates the voices of resilient women athletes. We specifically work with women Olympians and Paralympians, and we tell their stories via podcast, video, and live events. Now, we do this for 3 different reasons. We want to celebrate them. We want to craft a new narrative, and we really want to build a supportive community. The reason we do this is I think it's really hard to be what you can't see. As a little girl, I remember looking up to people who looked like me, who sounded like me, and I thought that if they could do it, I could do it too. And now we already know that so little coverage goes to women that we're trying to increase that so that more girls have role models they can look up to. So we address the quantity and the quality problems. So as we found out, historically, sports coverage is kind of a misnomer. It's really just male sports coverage, if 96% is historically gone to men. But this year, we actually have seen some massive turning points for women in sports, with women kind of taking the courts and the field by storm. But still, whose stories are told and how they're told is still missing the mark. So if I'm going to be completely honest, historically, of the 4% of coverage, it pretty much has gone to women who look like me. So that is white, able-bodied women from the global north who speak English, who play specific sports. And if you don't fall into those categories, you're often not covered, let alone covered in a way that feels good, that's empowering to you. So coverage of athletes who are outside of the traditional molds, be it race, ability, sexuality, religion, is practically non-existent. And also of the existing coverage, many of it co-ops the narrative. They put the narrative into words for a different group of people as opposed to sharing their stories as they want them told. So that's what we do. On the right, this is a picture of Mia Latana Clerc. Mia was the first woman from Madagascar to compete in the Olympics in alpine skiing. Alpine skiing is not a common sport in Madagascar, where she's from. So we tell their stories how they want them told. Why do we do that? We envision a world where more people feel represented and empowered, and we believe change starts with stories. So we work with a massive range of athletes, from super well-known athletes like Sue Bird to lesser-known athletes, and we put them on the same platform because we think it's really important that we send the message that everyone's story deserves to be heard. We can learn from everyone, and frankly, I think that there's a lot of lessons from the lesser known athletes that have really influenced my life, and I hope that other people feel the same way. Okay, so here's an example of one of our earlier videos. This was actually for one of our earlier podcasts. So let's see if this will work. Can you hear it?
What happens when the games end?
Hopefully you can hear it.
When the world stage goes quiet,
Yeah.
and athletes return to their everyday lives. In the past seasons of Flame Bearers, we delved into how these incredible women athletes got to the games, when all eyes were on them. But what happens now when nobody or only a few are watching? In season 3, we dive into the future plans and musings of women athletes who reflect on their accomplishments and enjoy life outside of the games. Our conversation lineup includes Mexican gymnast Alexa Moreno, Chinese snowboarder Liu Jiayu, Dutch wheelchair tennis player Didi de Groot, Nigerian bobsledder and track and field runner Dr. Sayun Adigan, and American basketball legend Sue Bird. These inspiring athletes from around the world discuss what matters most to them, from body positivity and athlete activism to mental health and sustainable fashion, and much more. Check out season 3 of Flame Bearers, Keeping the Fire Burning, for a glimpse of what goes on beyond the torch.
Awesome. So that's just an example. Oh, let's see. There we go. So that's just an example of one of the videos we've done here. I think catch up. Oh, for some reason. Okay, great. 2 more examples. I know we have some individuals, I believe, from the Dominican Republic within this chapter. So on the right, we have Alejandra Eibar. She was actually the first Paralympic swimmer from the Dominican Republic to compete as a woman in the Paralympics. She's absolutely incredible, and it was an honor to tell her story. On the left, we have Masuma Alizada from Afghanistan. She talked about growing up in Afghanistan. Oh, yes, you know her, Mia. Yes, she's incredible. Huge, huge fan. She's done so much incredible advocacy work for people with disabilities, for women. She was actually very open about, for the first time ever, actually being harassed by her coach. And these are the things that athletes actually want to talk about, not necessarily focusing on her disability. If, a lot of people look at her and want to push a certain narrative, that wasn't what she wanted to focus on. So that's not what we focused on. On the left, we have Masuma Alizada. Masuma's from Afghanistan. She had to flee the country because the Taliban was targeting her and her family because she rides a bike. Every time in Kabul, when she had to go out on her bicycle, she had to dress up as a man because people would throw stuff at her out of their car when they saw she was a woman bike rider. So these are the stories that we like to elevate. So I was asked to identify some of the challenges that I faced along the way. I absolutely love the work that I do, but I would be lying if I was saying that it has been a completely smooth ride. 3 challenges that I'll specifically highlight. The first has been developing my own metrics of success. So these are organizations, I either went to school there or have worked with them or been published there, and they sound great, but I think through developing Flame Bearers, it's been really important to me to march to the beat of my own drum, to come up with what matters to me. And even if it's not something that has mattered to other organizations, to say these are what are most important. 2, being is mislabeled or misjudged. This is very common in this space. I was a gender studies minor in 2010, and I was frequently called a man hater by people. Assumptions were made about my sexuality, things like that. So I needed to just get over the fact that some people were going to be ridiculous. And that was kind of the reaction that I recommend moving forward, is saying, you know what, hey, if you're going to think that about me, I'm okay. You're just probably not someone I want to associate with. Yeah, haters will hate. Great point. Number 3 is being an entrepreneur can be lonely. I think that this is something that a lot of people actually kind of gloss over. I think entrepreneurship is frequently heralded as something that is glorious and beautiful, but it's also really tough. So I always like to put that out there and be transparent about it. Okay, yes. Advice for you today. 3 tips. Find your people and keep them close. So I like to say that we all have 2 families. So 1 is the family you're born into, and 2 is the family you make or the family you choose. And these are some of my best friends, people from lower school, from high school, from college, colleagues. And they're not necessarily the most powerful or connected people, but they're people who have always been there for me. On the last page, you saw the Harvard logo. Yes, I went to Harvard, but actually my tribe, the people who I care most about, are people who I've known for a lot longer than that. They're individuals who may not be able to open every door for me, but who've always been there for me. Number 2 is, as you grow your networks, be super specific and targeted in your requests. So I think one kind of challenge that I faced earlier on in my career was being more general. So when I reached out to people saying, hey, I'd love to have a conversation, and they'd reply back and say, well, what do you want to talk about? And that was when I really had to get my thoughts together. What I would instead recommend is being specific right off the bat. So here's an example. You could say, hey, Jamie, I was in today's LinkedIn session. Thanks for X. I'd love to talk to you about X, Y, or Z because of this reason. And I think that that gives the person a lot more incentive to talk to you. Number 3 is seeing rejection as opportunity. I remember I have always taken rejection very personally. And what I would instead recommend is viewing it as an opportunity and saying, okay, this is a no for today, but not for tomorrow. So here's what we have coming up. We have a whole podcast video season with athletes who are trying to compete in Paris. So these are athletes who have already qualified or are seeking to qualify. All the individuals' faces on the screen are people who we have actually confirmed and locked in. We have an exciting documentary series that we are working on. I can't officially announce it yet, but I will keep you all posted. We're very excited about it. We have a ton of social media conversations that are coming up. And on the right, you'll see we're starting to do more live events. So we actually have an upcoming live event at a Lululemon store here in Boston. Okay, so work with us. If anything I've said today resonates with you, there are 3 ways that we would love to work with you. So we're actively looking for people to join our community to be featured in our videos for social media. 2 would be helping with partnership development, and 3 would be helping to put together events just like this amazing Girl Up one. If any of those are exciting for you, please reach out to me via email. I will also drop in my socials at the end of this. Last but certainly not least, I'll leave you with these words from 2 of our athletes, Alini from Brazil and Mia from Madagascar. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to continue the conversation.
Thank you so much. I really loved how you explained everything. It was so great, especially where you said how rejection is not personal. That was really nice. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, Jamie, the site communication director of Girl of Caribbean. I'm Debasmita Laha. It's such an engaging session too. And thank you so much for joining us and giving your precious time. We are super grateful for this.
I was on mute. You think by now I'd have that done. I said I love Girl Up, and I think what you're doing is incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, it was. I really loved it. You mentioned minoring in gender studies. What did you major in school?
I was an international affairs major, so I lived abroad, and the gender played into it for sure. But my thematic area of focus was international affairs.
Wow, that's so cool.
So yeah, I've always loved specifically working with women and girls around the world. Actually, my first job out of college, I moved to Bangladesh and I worked at the first women's university over there. So that's really what I've been passionate about for a really long time.
I have just a question, like from which country you are joining us?
I'm coming from the United States, so I'm in Boston.
All right,
Close to
so
Boston.
it's there. So I'm from India, and it's pretty like the event started from 11:30 p.m. and right now it's 4 a.m. morning.
That is so impressive that you're on this at 4 a.m. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for making it possible.
Yes, thank you thank you also you guys also, like our members also. Thank you to each and every members for staying with us. And Sylvia, are you there in meeting? Okay, so as Sylvia is not responding, so Kavita, I'm requesting you to end the recording. Thank you so much, Kavita, for